The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
My guest today is a licensed private investigator in the state of Ohio. She works in a community outside of the city of Cleveland. Many of you will remember my interview in December 2009 with Neil Sankey. Together, my guest and Neil Sankey uncovered something that would put you and me in prison if we did the same thing. And this is what they've uncovered. Barack Obama, Barry Soetoro, has been using a Social Security number issued in Connecticut between the year 1977 and 1979, despite the fact that Connecticut is a state in which he never lived or even visited at that time in his life. So I'm glad to welcome to True News for the first time Investigator Susan Daniels. Susan, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you very much, Rick.
Well, Susan, we interviewed Neil back in December 2009. Tell me how the two of you got together on this project.
Actually, we worked independently. I wasn't aware of Neil until I had started my work. And we came to the same conclusions.
So you guys didn't start this out together. You were working independently.
Right. No, I had never heard of him.
Okay, so tell me how you got started on investigating Obama's mysterious past.
Well, probably sometime in August of that year, somebody came to me with concerns about what was going on and asked me to start looking into Obama's background. I did not expect to find anything because by that time he had been in office for a while, and I tried a couple of the larger databases. Private investigators, because we are licensed, are allowed access to databases that you would not be able to access. And I could not find him on any of the larger ones, which is what I anticipated. But when I got to some of the smaller, more obscure ones, I immediately found a Social Security number, and then I started running that and came up with about 10 pages of addresses for him using that Social Security number starting in about 1986. And it was for his houses in Chicago, his law offices in Chicago, where he lived in Massachusetts, when he was in Harvard, when he was a senator in Washington, D.C. And every one of them, when they come up on these databases, it says issued in Connecticut between 1977 and 1979. Well, we've pinned it down better than that now. It appears that he may have allegedly gotten this number in March or April of 77. At that time, he would have been 15 years old and was in high school in Hawaii.
Approximately what year was this that you started this process?
It would have been in 2009.
2009. Now, at this time in 2011, have those databases been sanitized?
Not one of them, because I just went in the other day, or no, it's within the past 2 weeks, and was able to run the same documents again.
All right, so it is still appearing on these databases.
Yes.
That's interesting that they haven't managed to find a way to sanitize it. Maybe.
Well, there's a lot of databases out there.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And the thing that's very interesting, 2 weeks ago, what I was able to do also is there is a government website where you can verify people's selective service number. And if you all you have to do is go to Google, and then you put in selective service verification, and a government site pops up, and in that you put a person's last name, their Social Security number, and their date of birth. And 2 weeks ago, I ran him. It pops up, and what it has is his last name and his date of birth, his selective service number, and the last four numbers of his Social Security number, and those are the ones that are the Connecticut Social Security number. And it says that the number was issued in September, I think it was September 4th, 1980. However, the document that he filled out allegedly in 1980 to get that number is, I believe, a forgery. Because what they did is, underneath the date stamp of when this was supposed to have been filled out, every other one that I was able to get my hands on has the entire year of 1980, and his is an off-center 80. And it appears that somebody couldn't find an old stamp, so they took a 2008 stamp, cut off the first two and the 0, and then turned the stamp upside down and stamped it that way.
Because at that time there was no Photoshop software,
Right?
So it had to be done manually.
Right.
Susan, as a private investigator, I'm certain you've come across all types of cases of identity fraud. Back in those years of the mid 70s to 80, how common was it for people to obtain a fake Social Security number?
Well, a lot of the databases don't go back into the 70s. Occasionally they do. Mostly it starts in the early 80s. When I started looking, I immediately knew when it popped up Connecticut for him, I knew it was fraudulent. I mean, I knew within 2 seconds of when it came up, because I knew what his age was. I knew where he was. As I have told people, if it had come back with possibly a California Social Security number, I probably would not have paid any attention to it. But when I saw it was Connecticut, I knew immediately that it was fraudulent. Also,
why did you know it was fraudulent?
Well, because I knew that you have to, you get your Social Security number in the state where you're living when you apply. And on his, on the form he would have had to fill out, there would have had to have been a Connecticut address for him to get the Social Security number there. And I knew it could not have been done.
Do we have any way of knowing the address he used?
No. See, this number would have been issued to somebody else previously.
Okay, so
they just gave it to him to use starting in the mid-'80s.
All right, so this was a legitimate Social Security number that had been issued to another person.
Right, because when I ran through a Social Security verifier database, it came up with his name, when it was issued, but it also came up the year 1890 on it. And that is something in 16 years I have never seen.
Wait a minute, you're saying that this Social Security number that Obama has been using since the 70s or 80s, that it was originally assigned to a Connecticut resident who was born in 1890?
Yes. And what I believe happened is that in 1977, this person, the Social Security didn't even come into existence until 1936. And it was voluntary, not mandatory, that you have a number. I believe what happened, like for instance, my grandparents never had Social Security numbers. I believe what happened is that in 1977, the person who was born in 1890 got sick and needed a Social Security number to get medical care. And I think they probably died shortly after.
And how would Obama manage to find this person's Social Security number?
He didn't. Somebody found it for him. And in fact, Bill Ayers, in a book he wrote about the Weathermen, one of the things he bragged about was his ability to come up with entire new identities for people. And he said that the basis for all of them was always the Social Security number. So I think it's highly probable that he would have been involved in it.
What else do we know about this, the use of the Social Security number?
Well, this was very interesting. When all these addresses came up, a phone number kept coming up also for him. And what I did is then I ran the phone record. And that came up with about, 10 pages with, again, different addresses and things. But what was really interesting, because it had a place for not only the Social Security number, but his date of birth. And on one of the pages where it said date of birth, 3 times in a row it said 1890.
And the Social Security number is 042684425. Is that
Correct.
it? And we're giving this out on the air. 042684425 is Barack Obama's Social Security number.
Well, that's the one he used.
It's the one he's... Do we know if he's still using it?
Oh, I doubt that very much.
When is the last time you saw evidence that he used it?
I believe it was, I can't remember if it was 2007 or 2008, but it was while he was a senator, because I have several addresses in Washington, D.C. for him with that number.
So he was using it at 2006, 2007,
Right.
2008 as a U.S. senator.
Right.
And this number is linked to houses where he lived, to
Yeah.
offices?
Oh, everything. Law offices. Yeah, everything. The house that he claims that he has in Chicago right now. That number, it came up with that Social Security number.
Susan, you're licensed by the state of Ohio, right?
Right. 16 years.
16 years. And what is involved in becoming a licensed private investigator?
Well, the first thing you have to do is, I've actually been an investigator for 18 years, but I had to work for 2 years under somebody else's license because the state of Ohio requires you to have 4,000 hours of work before you are allowed to go down to the Capitol, which is in Columbus, and you take a written test. You also have a background done by the FBI, and the test is not an easy one. It was a 4-hour test.
Which state agency regulates private investigators?
Homeland Security.
Ohio Homeland Security?
Yeah, it's the Department of the Ohio Department of Public Safety. It's a division under Homeland Security.
All right. If a private investigator makes public accusations regarding an individual that are knowingly false accusations, what are the penalties for the investigator?
Oh, I don't know, but I would imagine they'd be significant.
I mean, you would obviously risk having your license revoked?
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm. And possibly there could be criminal or civil penalties.
Oh, I would think.
For making unfounded accusations against a citizen of the United States.
Well, especially the president, as I've told people, I would have to be a crazy person to make the kind of allegations that I have without the proof. But I have it all documented.
All right, I'm not prying into your private life. Is your private investigation firm, is this your primary source of income?
Oh, this has been my only source of income for the last 16 years.
All right, so you are risking your only source of income by making these accusations against Barack Hussein Obama.
You know what? The truth is the truth. And people make a mistake if they live their life in fear, if they're afraid of the truth. And it is what it is.
Susan, if I used a fake, if I used a Social Security number issued to a person in 1890,
right,
and I used it to obtain jobs, mortgages, to get, and I got elected to public office. And somebody discovered that I had been using a Social Security number that was issued to a person who's now dead. What would I be facing?
You would be a felon.
A felon?
That's criminal.
A
You're
felon?
not allowed to do that.
How many years? What do you think I'd get? 10, 15, 20 years?
I have no idea.
Yeah. But it's a felony.
If you were a federal judge right now, they'd give Obama a hug and send him on his way.
Okay, so I could be, I mean, if you were a private investigator looking into me for some reason and you found you found a 20-year pattern of using a Social Security number issued to a dead person, and you took it to a federal prosecutor and said, look what I uncovered about this guy, then most likely the federal prosecutor, the U.S. attorney for that state, would open up a federal investigation.
You would think that they would.
Right.
Except, what about he's had all these lawsuits
I'm
in
just
federal
saying,
court.
I know, but I'm just saying a private, an average citizen like you and me.
If it wasn't,
If you as a private investigator took a file on Rick Wiles that had evidence of a fraudulent use of a Social Security number issued to a dead person, and you showed a U.S. prosecutor that that's true about me,
right?
Most likely that U.S. attorney would open up a federal criminal investigation. I would be subpoenaed. I would be brought in and questioned under oath, and I would be indicted. I'd be handcuffed, taken to a federal detention center by U.S. Marshals.
Yeah. If you had been elected president of the United States, as Rick Wiles, a common citizen, they'd say, well, take it to the county court. We're not going to handle it federally. But the same scenario that you give for federal court, it's entirely possible. Or let's put it this way, it's not impossible.
Okay, have you taken your evidence to any law enforcement agencies?
Let's see. Remember all these people running for Congress with all the promises they made? I contacted my own congressman. I contacted John Boehner's office. I contacted Darrell Issa's office. I contacted Eric Cantor's office, and not one of them ever acknowledged me.
They didn't even acknowledge your contact?
No. As a matter of fact, in 2009, in the fall, I sent it, in August of 2009, I sent it to Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck. And they never acknowledged it.
See no evil, hear no evil.
Yep, just turn a blind eye.
But you have evidence.
I absolutely have evidence.
Have you taken it to any federal attorneys, prosecutors?
There is a case right now that is going to be heard in San Diego regarding his eligibility, and an investigator for Attorney Gary Creep contacted me and asked me to document the information I found, and I sent everything to them. I had previously filed an affidavit in a lawsuit in California with accompanying documents showing what I had found.
What about going to a federal grand jury?
Well, this was a federal lawsuit.
Mm-hmm. But I'm saying, what if you, as a citizen, went to a federal grand jury in Ohio and said to jury foreman, I'm a licensed private investigator. I have evidence of criminal activity.
See, I couldn't do that. It would have to be a federal prosecutor bringing me in as a witness. I mean, there's no way an individual can go to a grand jury.
Is there anybody on the planet in any official capacity other than radio talk show hosts and writers? Is there anyone who has taken you seriously?
A whole lot of people take me seriously.
I'm talking about...
But nobody in a position of power.
That's what I mean, in a position of power.
No, absolutely not. I have my stuff has all been sent to Donald Trump. I don't know if he'll do anything with it, but I sent it to him twice, and somebody who knows him was supposed to send it to him again.
Why is there a cover-up?
You know what? If I knew that answer, I wouldn't be working anymore. I'd write a book and be a rich woman.
I mean, Richard Nixon was driven from the White House because his guys broke in.
I believe that eventually he will be driven from the White House, too.
I do, too.
And I think it's a very sad state when the first black president of the United States turns out to be a fraud.
Well, he's only half black. I mean,
well, the truth of it is he is not even half black. His father, if Barack Obama Sr. is actually his father, he was only 1/8 black and was 7/8 Arab.
Susan, what about the use of the name Barry Soetoro?
Yeah, when he was supposed to have been adopted by Lolo Soetoro, and nobody has found any place that he ever changed his name back.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at. If he went to school, he went to college as Barry Soetoro, so that means he filled out applications, he filled out documents as Barry Soetoro.
Well, I also think that he went as a foreign student to Occidental.
I suspect he did. But what I've been asking for 3 years is what court and who is the judge who changed his name from Barack Obama Jr. to Barry Soetoro?
Nobody has found any kind of record of that.
And then who changed it back?
There are documents showing him registered as Barry Soetoro in Indonesia.
Yes, I know.
But there is, and his mother had him taken off her passport, which suggests that he was adopted.
So,
but there's
court?
No indication that it was ever changed back.
That's right. So what is his real name?
We have no clue.
And I'm wondering if Barry Soetoro has a separate Social Security number.
Oh, I'm sure that there is a second Social Security number.
Have you run a check on Barry Soetoro?
Yeah, and nothing comes up. Yeah, I did that early on, several years ago.
Susan, we have an imposter in the White House.
Yeah. Oh, I know that. I've known that for years.
An undocumented alien.
Imagine my frustration holding documents in my hand to prove it and not knowing where to go with it.
But the cover-up crosses both parties.
Yes, it does.
The Republicans are in on this cover-up.
I said that it's gotten to the point where you can no longer tell the difference between the Republicans and Democrats. They're all the same, and I said they ought to be made to wear sashes so we can tell them apart.
Or different colored skirts.
Yeah. Well, I said maybe bow ties for the Republicans, something. Yeah, no one should trust the government because everything that they tell us is a lie.
With Donald Trump, I don't know what to make of Mr. Trump. He certainly has a vocabulary that you'd only hear on a Navy ship.
But you know what?
And I
think that just goes to his level of frustration.
I know that, and I don't know what he really believes on issues, but I greatly admire his courage.
So do I.
And I watched what they did to him Saturday night at the White House.
Yeah, I read about it.
Pathetic. I watched it. They were deliberately trying to provoke an outrage from that man. I think they wanted him to stand up and throw chairs. They called him a racist. They did everything right with the man sitting there.
Yeah. Well, that's Obama in his smugness and his arrogance. I thought it was interesting that they broke into Trump's TV station in the last 15 minutes with this big announcement that Obama was dead, and he had been dead for quite a while.
You mean Osama, not Obama. Osama is dead.
That's
yes,
what I meant. Osama.
Yeah, and already, Susan, the photographs of dead Osama turned out to be photoshopped.
Yeah, I saw that.
The photographs of Osama bin Laden are as fake as Obama's birth certificate.
I will not believe it till I see some legitimate pictures. I think it was very interesting. The timing of this is just amazing.
As I was watching Donald Trump Saturday night at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, I thought, if I had his money and I was sitting there being made fun of by this arrogant, pompous butthole, I know what I would be thinking.
Oh, believe me, he'll get even.
You better believe it. I'd be saying to myself, I'll spend $20 million.
Oh, and he will.
Yeah.
And he will. And I only hope that he uses the documentation I found, because I'd like to be part of bringing him down.
Well, Susan, I commend you. Is there any other additional information we need to bring out here in the last?
No, actually, I think we've done a pretty good job.
Good. All right. And folks, listen, everybody here, please, you're listening to this program. You send this radio program around the world on the internet. You do everything you can to promote this program. You take the MP3 file and you send it to everybody you know and encourage them to send it to everybody they know. Get it on Facebook. Send it everywhere and tell the world that Barack Hussein Obama, alias Barry Soetoro, is an imposter. He is a smooth-talking street hustler. He is exactly what Reverend Manning calls him, a long-legged Mac Daddy. This is a hustler who should be in prison. He is a dangerous criminal, and he's sitting in the White House, and he's mocking us. He's laughing at the gullible American people who refuse to believe what they are being told is the truth, that he has a fake Social Security number, he has a fake birth certificate, his real name is Barry Soetoro, he's been associated with known communists his entire life. This man is an imposter, and I'm encouraging everyone to pass this radio program around on the internet. This man must be exposed. He must be exposed for the sake of truth and justice and for the sake of the American Republic. He must be exposed. If we do not expose this man for the fraud that he is, we have surely lost this constitutional republic. Because if this can be pulled off, we'll never again know if the man or woman in the White House is who he says he is. This is the issue right now. Can an imposter get in the White House and pull off the grandest lie ever told to the Republic? And I'm not going to let this lying, thieving, street hustler, I'm just not going to allow him to get away with it. It could cost me my life. This is dangerous stuff. This is dangerous stuff to expose who he is and what he is, because the cover-up goes all the way to the top in Washington. The cowardly Republicans either are in on it or they're too cowardly to stand up. I don't know which one it is, but I'm watching the way they're smearing Donald Trump. And the Republicans are smearing Donald Trump more than the Democrats. And so that tells me a lot right there. The Karl Roves, McCain, Cantor, all of them smearing him. Why? Because they can't control him. Well, let's pray for Donald Trump. Let's pray that this man rises up to the level of leadership that we need in this country right now. Whether he runs for president or not, my hope is that Donald Trump does whatever is necessary, spends whatever money he must spend of his own funds to expose Barry Soetoro for the lying snake that he is. Susan Daniels, thank you so much. God bless you.
Oh, thank you for having me on.
And don't stop. Don't stop.
I don't intend to.
Keep doing this. My guest, Susan Daniels, private investigator from the state of Ohio.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.